Thank you for buying your leveling block system from the Mini Donut Company. Today I'm going to walk you through the installation process. Welcome to my donut trailer where I make all my mini donuts. And I have a newer table here, so I need to mount my machine with my blocks just like you do. So today we're going to go through the simple installation here of this leveling system. I'm going to use the electric version of the 1200 by Little Orbits. This system will work with many different machines, but with me today I have this smaller Little Orbits machine, and this is actually the electric version, and the electric version has 4 feet, and some of the gas versions, I think most of them actually, have 5 feet. So when you order these blocks, make sure you count the number of feet on your machine because they do differ. So let's get into it and get this thing installed. So right away, when you get your machine or your blocks in the mail, you're going to unpackage them out of the box, and they're all going to be wrapped like this. And all the parts and pieces for each corner, or I guess I should say for each leg, will be included right here, all wrapped together. So you'll have all the hardware you need, including the knob, the locking nut, all the 4 mounting screws. The footbed is what we call this little piece inside here. It's all contained just like that. You're also going to see that you have some awesome bungee cords. You're going to have this little packet here, which includes your instructions. Let me rip it open. Includes your instructions, a little tube of red thread locker, which we'll use toward the end. Instructions, like I said, this instruction little packet is broken down into easy steps. On the back, you'll see kind of the component list here, and it also shows a little bit about the routing for the bungee cord. You also get this guy, and on the back it says, please use the reverse side of this, which is the side you're looking at, as a template, a drilling template for your system. So we're going to use this to actually lay out where we need to drill our holes in the tabletop here. And this is an important thing to have. So now that we've unboxed our leveling system, we're going to go ahead and pop these all open and remove all the components off of them. So I'm going to do that quick, and I'll be right back with you. Okay, now that we have unpackaged and disassembled each block, we are ready to move on to step 1. Now, step 1, pretty straightforward here. We're going to take our blocks and we're going to set the machine in each of these blocks. I should say each foot of the machine goes into a block. So I'm just going to lift up here and set this here, lift up here, set this here, give them a little jiggle to make sure they seat all the way down in there. Those 2 are in. Now I have 2 in the back. Lift it up. Make sure the feet slide in nicely. Okay. So step 1, set all the blocks on the surface of the table just like we did, and put the machine in the blocks. Check. Step 2, grab your marker. You can use an Expo marker, a pencil. This is a permanent marker. It does come off of stainless steel. It's not a big deal. But grab a writing utensil, and what we're going to do is we're going to trace the outline of each of these blocks. Now, at this point, keep in mind that we are positioning this where we want it to basically live. Now, you can always lift the machine out, but these blocks will live wherever you put them, okay? We're going to screw those to the table. So let's adjust the machine on the tabletop to where fits best for us, for our usage. Everybody's trailer or truck is a little different. Some people have things in the back they like. Some people have things around. So make sure wherever you typically put this, that you kind of get it in that same spot. And also, I like to point out, you want to leave clearance toward the back. If you like to swing your mix, or your hopper I should say, away from the heat, make sure you leave ample room there. While we're on this topic about making sure you're squared away here, these blocks, I get asked this pretty frequently, these blocks elevate the entire machine about 3/4 of an inch. So keep that in mind when you're looking at the highest point of your machine, which is my hopper here. Make sure you have plenty of space up here, because even at the lowest point, this is the lowest point this machine will ever go now, it's about 3/4 of an inch higher than the lowest point that you used to be able to just adjust the feet. So if you were to adjust them all the way to the lowest setting, that difference between that low setting and this low setting is about 3/4 of an inch. So not a huge deal, but wanted to let you know that's something else to keep in mind. Make sure you have enough vertical distance here. Okay, I'll give you a second here to find a proper place for your machine and to draw a line around the squares. Last thing I'll point out is I like, visually speaking, I like these the front flats of these blocks to be parallel. So when you're adjusting these, just kind of twist the blocks so that they're parallel. You can take a straight edge of some kind and lay it on there, but make sure they look the way you want them to look. Same thing on the rear. We don't want them twisted 45 degrees or anything strange, unless you want that, of course. It doesn't make any difference how they're rotated, but I like mine to be parallel with the machine. So go ahead and knock that out, and we'll see you back here for the next step. Okay, now that we have marked our final resting place, so to speak, on our tabletop, we're going to move down here to step number 3. Remove the machine and the blocks. You should now clearly see the square outlines drawn on the table. Okay, that's pretty simple. I'm going to remove my machine. You can just lift it right off. Set it over here on the sink. Our blocks are removed and clear as day. Maybe you can see them, maybe you can't. I have 4 squares drawn on the table. And I'll just kind of bring you in here so you can see what that looks like. 4 squares. There's 1, 2, and then the ones down here as well. So now we have all 4 marked on our table. And the rest of step 3 says, trim the included drilling template by cutting along the square lines. Okay, this is referring to this piece. This piece here is the drilling template, and we are going to cut along these black square lines, I should say. Not rocket science. I know you don't need me to demonstrate this, but I'll go ahead and just do it on camera. I'm just trimming just like this. And basically the idea behind this is we're going to set this new formed square right inside of the squares. Did I even do that on camera? Maybe I did. Sorry. We're going to set this square directly inside of these drawn squares on the table, and that's going to give us our perfect location to drill our holes. So if we continue in step 3, use a punch or marking tool, mark the centers of each hole. There will be 5 holes for each block. So just as a reference here, these outer 4 holes are going to be for the screws to mount to the table. The center hole is just going to be a through hole where your knob will just be able to slide in and out of this area here. So I'll demonstrate one here, and then we'll break, and you can do it on your own. But like you see here, I'm just going to set this directly in the square. I'm going to use a punch. You can just use a marker or a pencil. These are handy. because not only do they mark the center hole where you want it, but they also prevent your drill from walking once you start drilling the holes. So I'm going to go ahead and mark this exactly where I want it. Now you can use tape if you feel more comfortable with taping this square down, or not. You can do it like this. So this thing is kind of loud, but it works wonderfully. And I'm just marking each of these holes. Okay, now you can't see it, but I have 5 little tiny, nicks. They kind of look like little nicks, and that's going to mark where I need to drill. And go ahead and do that. Mark your spots, and we'll be right back. But step 4 is an important one, and we're gonna dive into that in just a second. If you want to read ahead, that may give you a little insight on what we're going to talk about next. But go ahead and do that, and we'll be right back. So step 4 is red, in fact, on the paper because it is very important. Please read before drilling holes. Note: tables and tabletops differ from manufacturer to manufacturer. Before drilling, look under the table to see if you have the clearance needed to drill your holes. You may need to shift the machine in some cases to avoid under counter obstacles. So I'm going to bring you in. We're going to talk a little bit more about this. So this particular square here, I have marked where I want to drill my holes. And that's great. It works great on the top surface. There's nothing in the way, obviously, on the top. But what we need to verify is that under, it's going to be somewhere in here. I'm just kind of looking where the square is, and I'm looking underneath. Under, I'm fine. Okay? So in my example, all 4 of my legs are within this center open spot. Okay? Your legs may be good just like this, but your legs also might run into other things like this. Now, from my experience, I've done this a few times. This is just a thin sheet of metal, so you can actually cut a hole in this, no problem. It's called a hat channel, and it's just for structural rigidity for the table. But overall, we need to make sure that whatever is below your table is not going to be interfering with you drilling holes, or in general just the operation of the leveling system. So continue on step 4. Check all 4 legs or 5 legs, whatever you have. Make sure underneath is just as clear as above is here. Use a 1/4-inch drill bit to drill the 4 outer holes. The 4 outer holes are 1/4 inch. They're even marked here on your template. Use a 3/4-inch drill bit to drill the center hole. The holes will be a bit oversized compared to the screws. This is to allow some wiggle room for adjustments, and you'll see that as you try it on here. But as far as drilling the holes go, there's a couple different ways that you can do this. You can use a regular drill bit, 1/4-inch drill bit, to do the outer holes. If you have a giant 3/4-inch drill bit to do the center hole, great. I like to use a step bit. Looks like this. Each one of these steps is graduated larger. So if you've never seen one of these before, each one of these steps has a hole size. So you would just start drilling, and then it would fall in, fall in, fall in, fall in until you get to the 3/4 mark for your center hole. Or you can use one of these, which is considered a hole saw. I like to use these as well. I might use this here today. And no matter what you choose, as long as you get to that 3/4-inch hole and 1/4-inch hole, you're good to go. Some people have metal. Some people have what do you call it? The laminate tops. So you find the best way to drill your hole and start drilling. So maybe I'll do a little time lapse here of me drilling holes, and we'll see you for the next step. Okay, we've drilled all our holes and made a nice mess in the trailer. I'm going to bring you over here so we can see what's happening. All right, so as you can see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 holes on each of these blocks. And after a little bit of adjustment, I actually did hit that. Let's move this out of the way. I actually did hit that hat channel like I was telling you about here. Where are we? Here we go. I actually did hit it. And just like I said, it's actually just thin sheet metal. So these 2 holes here, no problem. This one, this is where the knob is going to go. So it's really not an issue here. I'd say the only quote unquote thing we need to address issue is these 2 holes over here. So what we're going to do in this case, because our screws aren't going to be long enough to grab this hat channel, it's about half an inch deep. What we have 2 options. Number one, we can go to the hardware store and buy some longer 1032s, about a half an inch longer. So they'd be about overall about an inch long. Second option, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a larger drill and I'm going to drill this hole down here on the hat channel a little bit bigger. And the theory behind that is I'm going to push the screw that came with my kit. I'm going to stick it through that bigger hole, and I'll be able to basically screw it just like as if I were on the bottom of the table here. So I'm just going to enlarge these 2 holes here so I can fit my screw up in there for mounting. This larger 3/4 hole here in the hat channel, no big deal. Don't worry about that. It shouldn't be any issue at all. I guess the third and final option would be you could cut this square out of this hat channel. Like I said, it's thin metal. If you felt like you needed to, you could just remove that, and then you could have full access, just as if we were at any of these other locations. So I'm gonna quick wipe off my table because I've made a real mess here with all the metal shavings, and then we'll get right back at it. Okay, so I've cleaned up the table here a little bit. I'm going to bring you in a little closer because I did, in fact, drill out those holes I was telling you about in the hat channel. And I'll just set this right here. I did drill out these holes here. So what that's going to allow us to do is when we use our screw here, you see the head of the screw is obviously bigger than the threaded portion. But what that's going to allow us to do here is fit the screw all the way up in there. See? So now we can screw it right to the tabletop. So that's the goal here. That's the option I chose to use. You can use whatever option works best for you. And I also thought about one more thing I wanted to tell you, which is if you do order the leveling blocks with a thicker table, so there's an option on when you order if your table is thicker than an inch. I do have longer knobs, adjustment knobs. So to put that in a little bit of a perspective here, I'm going to set you back. To put that into perspective, this is your typical knob that comes with your system for a normal table like this. This is the extended knob. So if you have a 2-inch thick table, these extended knobs will be what you want to use. Now, if you ever feel like you just need these for whatever reason, if you want extended knobs, they're available. Just contact me and I can send them out to you. So I just wanted you to be aware that there is a longer extension if necessary. Now, step 5, place block on top of the table hole over the holes that you just drilled and visually check that all the holes align. Another easy way to do this is to take your block and just hold it under the table. I know you can't see this, but all my holes are lining up with the holes that I drilled. So that's good. Keep in mind there might be some metal chips or little burrs that you might need to take care of. Now, sometimes the holes that you just drilled aren't perfect, right? Nobody's perfect. Sometimes they're a little wonky. Now, most of the time you can adjust the block so that the holes all line up. But if you feel like it's, oh shoot, I'm like a 16th of an inch off for one reason or another, you can actually go up a size on these mounting holes. There's a little bit of wiggle room there. So if we were doing a quarter of an inch is what I'm recommending, but you can actually go up to 5/16, maybe on that hole that's off, or maybe a couple holes are off. You can jump up to the next size, which is a 5/16, and the washer that comes with your screw will be able to handle that size hole as well. So just a little bit of side note there, but I think it's an important point uh, to bring up. Okay, so at this point, we're going to go ahead and get all of our screws together. So screw, lock washer, then big flat washer. And that's the order that you want to put it together. So what I'll do is I'll just reach it, I'll set the block on top, and then I'll reach under and I'll kind of just screw them in to make sure everything is working right. At this point, you can put the red thread lock on there if you feel like you're good to go. Otherwise, don't put the thread lock on there. And what we'll do is we'll just start installing these blocks loosely, maybe not even tightened all the way down. And then we'll take our machine and set it into the blocks to make sure everything is good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll meet you back here for step number 6. Talk to you soon. All right, I have lightly screwed in all of my blocks to my table, okay? And I kept them a little loose because you might need to just do a quick little shimmy shake once we set this machine into these blocks, just to get it positioned exactly right. I'm going to bring you in here. I will point out one thing, and that's the orientation of these holes. So these holes here are designed for the bungee cord to fit in. So the way that I set this up is, this is the outside where I'm standing out here, and the hole is to the inside of the machine and to the outside of the table. Same on this side. So the hole for the bungee cord is on the inside of the machine, outside of the table. Okay, and I did that throughout everything. Inside of the machine, outside of the table, and the same on the back block, which you can't really see, but it's the same. So that's the way I like to set it up for these bungee cords. And here, let me grab one and show you. Basically, the bungee cord fits through here, and it's going to go over the machine and then into this side. So the machine is going to be sitting in here like this, and it's to hold it down. Just wanted to point that out in case there was any confusion on that. But without further ado, let's grab our machine and set it in our new leveling system. All right, so the blocks kind of, I saw them move, just shimmy just a little bit in order to fit everything in there. So just make sure it's all sitting flat and flush in there. Everything on my end looks good. If there's any fine-tuning adjustments you want to make with the parallel portion visually of the blocks here, now's the time to do it. And the next step is going to be finalize the tightening of all of these screws. So I'm just down here tightening up these screws while the machine is in it. That way it's completely sturdy and it's ready to go. Go ahead and tighten all those up, get everything appropriately aligned and twisted, and those little fine tunings that I was talking about, and we will be right back. Okay, we are locked down. All the blocks have been cinched tight to the table, And now we are basically on the final step here. Screw the M12 nut onto the knob, just like it is here. Then screw the knob into the block from under the table. When the knob screw is high enough, use a drop of red thread locker on the small M4 screw and attach the footbed to the end of the screw knob. Repeat for each block. So this knob is now going to go into that center hole from underneath the table. We're going to screw it up in there. At the end of this knob, you'll see a hole with threads in it. And once this is screwed up into the block, we're going to set this, which is what I call the footbed, onto the top of this. And we're going to screw in that little M4 screw. So this is going to be inside of the block, and this is actually what holds the foot. So I'm just going to slide my machine off quick so you can see how this will look. So just as the instructions said, make sure that this is threaded on there. And I'm going to reach up under the table and I'm going to screw it right up into the block. Okay, maybe I'll bring you in to show you this one. So as we're looking into the block, you can see the bottom one there. I'm screwing it and it's coming up just like it's supposed to. Okay. And now we're actually out. Okay. And at this point, put you back, we're going to take the footbed. We're going to take the little tiny screw that came with the footbed. I'll apply just a little bit. Now, with this red thread lock here, you can either put it on the screw or you can just kind of drip it into the threads. I find that it's a little easier just to kind of drip it into the threads, but either way works. We're going to set the footbed on top, and we're going to screw this little guy right into its home. Okay, and at this point, we can make that pretty tight. You don't need to go crazy, but that is a finished foot block. Bring it in closer here so you can see. And that is what it looks like. And I'm unscrewing it. It's going right down into the hole. And your foot of your machine is going to sit right inside that footbed. And that is what's going to hold it nice and tightly in place, even when you lift it up above, which you rarely should, but even if you had to lift it way up, the foot sits inside of this, and it's not, the whole machine is not going to slide off. So it's very stable and actually adds a bit of safety to the whole system. So I'll go ahead and do the other three, and we will be back in a second to do kind of final assembly. And yeah, we'll show you how it looks when it's all completed. See you in a sec. Okay, we have completed the installation. So now for the cherry on top, we are going to set our machine into its new home. Here we go. Voila! Our machine is currently at the lowest level, so it's going to be sitting on the bottom of the machine, just like you see here, and this is where it will live. It'll operate here. You'll make donuts here. You can remove it if you need to. If you feel like you need to clean underneath it, you can easily always just lift it off. But once it's in here, I mean, it's literally not going anywhere. So at this point, I'll kind of show you the idea with the bungee cords. For the last few years, what I've done is I've had a hook on the back of my wall, and I've just gone over the top of the machine to the front of the table. This is absolutely totally acceptable. The machine is not going anywhere, okay? But for those of you who don't already have holes in the back of your trailer, or you don't want to put holes, you can absolutely use these tie-down holes on the blocks. So you loop it in the front, you reach around, loop it in the back, and that's going to hold your machine down while you travel to your next location. okay? And the machine's not going anywhere. Leave it on the counter, leave it in the trailer, move around, drive around the city with it. You're going to be good to go. That's why we call this the leveling and containment system, because it is contained. And let's show you how we level. I'll pop these babies off. So we just arrived at our new location and we need to level this. Now it's as easy as lifting up one end or the other as necessary. I'm just down here and I'm twisting the knobs and up we go. Okay. And you can see here, maybe I'll bring you in. You can see here that the foot of the machine is sitting nicely in the foot bed, like I mentioned earlier. So once we get our machine nice and level, let me bring you in closer here. I mean, that's pretty extreme, but once we get nice and level, you see here that the block is super easy to go up and down, super easy to adjust. And the foot is sitting right in that footbed. Now, remember, you can see now we're disengaging here. That's because I had adjusted the back one too. So make sure you adjust all the feet as necessary, right? You don't want to just lift up one side or the other because you might have a little bit of a gap there. So make sure you are adjusting all levels at the same time. And here's kind of an under view of what we're doing here. So I'm just adjusting by twisting this or twisting this, and the same thing goes down here as well. You can see the knob there. And while we're over here, let me just show you. Once we get to the point where we want, I'm just going to screw this locking nut up here and then kind of firm it up with my hands here, and it's not going anywhere, okay? That's going to be secure. And with the weight of the machine, I mean, the machine with all the shortening in there is going to be, I don't know, 40, 50 pounds. It's not going anywhere. So when you're all done, you can lower it back down. So we'll lower it all the way back down. And this is how I like to travel. You lower it all the way back down so that it's resting nicely on the block. Then we can tighten that locking nut underneath if you want so it doesn't go anywhere. They shouldn't ever fall out because they're screwed. The knobs are screwed in through the footbed, so they should never fall out. But if you want to keep them from jiggling, you can just kind of tighten them up there. And like I said, throw the bungees over the top, and off you go. So thank you so much for watching us demonstrate the installation of our new product. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. My name is Daniel. I'm happy to walk you through any difficult situations or different tabletops or questions that you have. No problem. Just give me a shout. Thanks again for your business, and we look forward to seeing you somewhere down the road. Talk to you soon.